So a couple of days ago, I picked this up at BestBuy.com, the Autel Evo. Now, it's been out for about 3 years. Is it still worth it in 2021? Let's do a review. Bought the drone on sale for $4.99. Originally was $7.99, and the on-the-go package for $50, which included the case and 2 batteries. So this is the on-the-go case that it comes with. It's a pretty good size. It holds everything, really. Well, except for the charger. I don't know exactly where you can fit the charger in here. You can probably fit it somewhere. It does have these pockets in the front. The drone, of course, and the controller go in there. And it's a nice, well-made case. To compare, this is the Mavic 2 case. I don't know if you can actually see this or not, but Mavic 2 case is quite a bit smaller, even though the drones themselves are pretty similar in size. So this is the size comparison between the Evo and the Mavic 2 Pro. It really blends in well with this landing pad since it's orange. It's not a lot of difference in size. They're very close. I would say the Mavic 2 is slightly bigger. Now, the selling point for this drone at the time, it did have a 1/2/3 sensor, but it was the first foldable drone like this that could shoot 4K at 60 frames per second. The Mavic 2 would later come out a couple months later, but you know, it is rather large for the camera size. The Evo 2 was released sometime last year, which has a 1-inch sensor now. And I think it's a 1-inch sensor with the 6K, and the 8K has a 1/2-inch sensor. And really, this drone, unless you can get it fairly cheap, it's not worth the price tag. Originally, it was $1,000 new. I believe it's $700 on the Best Buy's website now. But really, you can get the Air 2, which has a 1/2-inch sensor and shoots at 60 frames per second for much less. So, but I do like this drone though. And let me also mention that this drone is refurbished by Autel. It does have infrared sensors on the back for obstacle avoidance on the rear. And on the bottom, you have ultrasonic sensors and 2 cameras for vision positioning. Now, for the most part, you don't see ultrasonic sensors on drones anymore. Now it's either cameras or infrared sensors. I've always found that the ultrasonic sensors could cause the drone to hover erratically over water, especially. And I wanted to do a quick comparison between 2 of the rival drones that were released the same year in 2018. To the left, you have the Parrot Anafi, and to the right, you have the original Mavic Air. Now, the Evo, far and away, to me, is better than these 2 because not only the camera is better, the video transmission is better, because the other 2 use enhanced Wi-Fi. The Evo uses a video transmission system that's very similar to DJI's IQ-Sync, which is on the higher-end Mavic lines. It's even now on the Mini 2, and it's much better than the enhanced Wi-Fi, which I'm glad they finally got rid of it. But also bear in mind that all 3 of these drones have been discontinued and retired. So let's take a quick look at the specs on the box. Cameras 4K, 63-axis gimbal. Vision system, it does have obstacle avoidance, front, rear, and downward. Intelligent flight modes, very similar to DJI. It does have follow me as well as orbit and a couple other different ones. The HD transmission system is 4.3 miles, very similar to DJI's IQ-Sync. Of course, you won't get that type of range with the drone, plus it'll be completely out of line of sight, but at least you know that if you're flying in a heavily congested area like the city or Wi-Fi congested areas, you'll have a rock solid signal, and it'll be much better than enhanced Wi-Fi. Another thing I wanted to mention was the build quality. It's a very robust, well-made drone. I especially like the rear legs where they just fold inward instead of the DJI style. You have to flip them around. But Yeah, this drone is pretty solid, I will say that for sure. Onto the remote, it's very Mavic Pro-ish. It's obvious that Autel took cues from DJI with the design of the drone and the controller. It does not have removable thumbsticks, and the phone sits on the top, which makes it a little top-heavy. The one thing I do like about the new controller for the Mavic Air 2, Mavic Mini 2, Air 2S is that it balances the placement of the controller and the phone out perfectly. This one, it's a little different. One thing I do like is it does have the OLED display, very similar to the Mavic Pro. The only difference is in color, for one, and two, it also can switch to video mode, so you don't have to have a phone to fly this drone. Another thing I wanted to mention that it does have United States-based customer support, open 7 days a week. Now, as great as DJI's drones are, its customer service is even worse. Because if you've ever dealt with DJI customer service, you know what I mean. And from what I've heard, Autel's customer service is top-notch. So when I bought the drone, it indicated on Best Buy's website that it did not come with a battery. So I bought extra batteries. They had a special going on. The batteries are $50 each. They were half off. So I got 4, or at least I thought I was getting 4. Apparently it showed up with a battery. So now I have 5 batteries. So here's some sample footage from my first flight today. The one thing that jumped out at me the most was the range. I got quite a bit of ways away before I ever lost signal. I wanted to see how far it would go. I figured by flying over this construction area, this road is unfinished, so there's no danger to anybody. So if something were to happen, it would go down into trees or whatever. But it did lose signal, and it did utilize the return home, and it came back. But I will say that the flight characteristics are a little bit different with this drone. I'm used to flying DJI, so I expect a drone to behave a certain kind of way when I input on the sticks. This drone's quite a bit different, especially when you yaw from side to side. It's a really rapid movement. I'm sure I can adjust some of the settings, but overall, the flight, it was okay. I'm not really that impressed with it. It is much better than Parrot, but to me, it's still not on par with the DJI drone. I left all the camera settings on automatic, but as you'll see with this clip, when I pan up, it completely blows out the exposure. It's really overexposed. One thing I don't like about this drone is the battery. Battery is quite difficult to remove. You have to push down on this button here, and it is not easy to get off. So would I recommend this drone? Only if you can find it in the $400 to $500 range. I would definitely not recommend it over the Mavic Air 2 or even my new favorite, the Air 2S. So I think it's interesting that Autel, like a lot of other drone companies, have pulled the plug on this product so soon because it's only 3 years old. Now, I will say this drone has aged better than some of the other drones. It is portable. It does have a good camera. It's not perfect. One thing I did notice was that with the obstacle avoidance, when you're flying backward, it will just alert you that there's an object. It will not avoid it. So technically you could crash into something, which that's a disappointment for what this drone costs. But in the end, I don't know if I'd recommend it. I think if you find it cheap, yeah, I would definitely get it. But the concern is with Autel now pulling the plug on it, and the batteries are getting harder to find. It's kind of a judgment call. If you can find it for the right price, I would say yes, but I wouldn't go out looking for it. I haven't flown the Evo 2, so I don't know anything about that one. But I mean, it's still a good drone, but it's a judgment call. I'm not sure if I'm going to keep it or not. I probably will, but I'm kind of on the fence with this one. So that was my review on the Autel Evo. Do you have one? Do you have Evo 2? Do you like it? I have to say I would not prefer it over a DJI drone. That's just me. It's not bad though, but it's not perfect. It has its flaws, but what can you say? But anyway, that's my story. I'm sticking to it. Thank you so much for watching. Thank you for subscribing. I will see you in the next video.